Would you like to live your best life possible, regardless of your imperfections? Discover cutting-edge tools and inspiration to let go of your limitations and expand your life beyond what you've ever imagined. On Imperfect Brilliance, we help you tap into your unique gifts and talents, uncovering and letting your brilliance shine. Join certified facilitator and coach Betsy McLaughlin as she delves into different areas of your life to get unstuck and create the life that is truly possible for you. Betsy has changed her life by utilizing the tools and techniques she is sharing with you. What if your willingness to acknowledge your brilliance is the catalyst to creating a new reality? When you stop judging you, what else can you create in your life and in the world? Join Betsy live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern to create magical and joyous possibilities for an hour of laughs, questions, tips, and more. We are excited to contribute and play with you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Imperfect Brilliance. I am your host, Betsy McLaughlin, and I am super excited about our conversation today with my guest, Dr. Lisa Cooney. And Lisa, first of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Betsy. And hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. In our conversation today, our topic is communion with bodies. And there's a quote that, as we were writing up the description for the show, it was from the founder of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas. And it says, when you take a fixed point of view, you've lost communion. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so, so true. And so we're going to be talking all about communion with our bodies, how that relates to other parts of our lives, connection, and really, truly what is possible for our bodies. And before we get started, in case people don't know about Lisa, just a little bit of information. She is a doctor of psychology. She is a licensed therapist and a life coach, also a best-selling author. And she has also created a program called ROAR, which stands for Radically Orgasmic Alive Reality, methodology that moves beyond abuse and trauma. She's also a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness. She's got so many different, she wears so many different hats and has so many different talents. She's a leading authority on creating a life and living after abuse and trauma. So, she has empowered thousands of people over the past 25 years to breaking free from all forms of limitations, blockages, abuse, to truly create an infinite life with infinite possibilities and a life that they truly enjoy. So, Lisa, again,
that's a mouthful.
Thank you so much for coming. I know, right? And for you, let's talk a little bit about what communion with your body means in your world.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a great question, because how long you got?
Right.
Okay, so communion with my body. What it means now is everything that I put on my body, in my body, food and whatnot, plus perhaps another body, if I could be so bold, and who works and collaborates with me on everything, who I and what I have in my space, where I live, even when I travel. All of those things that I create in my life come from listening to my body and my body telling me literally how it best functions. Almost like a child, but not like a parent-child relationship, more like being a good friend to myself. And this body that I have has traveled with me for 50 years now in this form, on this planet. I know age in a certain way is irrelevant. And it's only really been, I've had waves of it, but in the last, 2.5 to 4 years, I've really made a commitment for that communion. And it actually took a lot of practice because I did not have that language. I didn't have that skill set. I didn't have that receptor site. I basically had how much more dissociated can I get? How much more disconnected can I be? How much more can I pretend like I don't know? And how much more could I defend against ever knowing?
Wow, it's like you're speaking my language, that's for sure.
That's why we be talking.
Right? And, so I, too, have had a lifetime of disassociative discommunion with my body, kind of the opposite of what we're talking about today. But it's, definitely been a huge part of my wake up recently to a whole different way of actually that you can be with your body. And so this conversation for me, and I know for a lot of people, is just right. It's in your face right now, like for me more than ever. And I'm so grateful that there is something different, that you don't have to continue disassociating and treating, whatever you've done or not done, you don't have to continue it.
Right. Well, I actually, when you said that the dissociation is opposite from the communion, I think it's the polar opposite, absolutely, like good and bad, right and wrong. But it's what most people do in this reality. Nobody sat us down and said, okay, honey, when you put things in your body and you immediately get a stomach ache or you're feeling kind of sluggish, maybe that's not the thing your body actually wanted. Okay?
Right.
Or we didn't have those choices available back whenever. We have those choices available now when we get in touch with our bodies. And our bodies are, our vehicle that we carry with ourselves each and every day. And how often have you ever actually just taken a moment to have gratitude for your body and see what it actually likes? It has been my deepest relationship, my best partner, and my greatest buddy over the last 4 years. And that's after facing, yet again, a very challenging physical disease that almost killed me. And that's not the first time I went through that. And at some point I had to say to myself, are you sick and tired of being sick and tired yet, of almost dying? And do you have to actually live your life in that pain? That was the dissociation living. So how many of you that are listening to this call, because I know you and I have this similarly, Betsy, is that how much of embodiment have you defined as dissociation? And therefore, what is living in your body? Who is living in your body? And who are you mimicking in your body that may not be you? And whose reality are you believing that might not be true?
Such great questions. And, that this is one of the things that I just love where, like you said, these are not conversations that you have growing up. So having this kind of conversation and hearing these questions, kind of you do go, oh, wow. And, like even for me, it was, who was I eating for? Was one of the questions that I started asking. Because, there's so many times where it was for me, I did a lot of unconscious eating, and so it's like, who was I actually eating for? Did it have anything to do with me, or was I aware of other people and their whatever was going on? And, so when you start asking those kind of off-the-wall questions that really resonate, you're like, okay.
Well, when you ask,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
When you ask the question, it's beautiful, brilliant what you said. When you actually ask the question, that quote you read from Gary about the points of views start to dissipate, and you you move from a myopic vision to a panoramic vision, and that panoramic vision gives you possibility, and then that possibility creates space in your body, and that space in your body is actually communion. Because your body, and I didn't know this, because my body was so heavy my whole life. When I felt like I walked around, I felt like my thighs could, take down a train, and, or a construction site, and I thought that was normal. But what I realized is everybody else's point of view about my body and about their body, I locked onto my body to fit into this reality that pretty much said, don't have communion with your body. Don't even talk about your body. Don't even think about your body. Just supersize everything and not even take care of yourself.
Wow.
And that was not my innate way of being with my body. And when I actually first experienced that space and communion, I took a deep breath that I had never taken before. And it was like the first moment I breathed in my life. And I was like, I have been missing out on something that I didn't even know existed. And I don't have to suffer anymore. I could actually let go, and in that space of being, find my communion with me.
That
subsequently my body.
Absolutely beautiful. And when you started talking about, I got this sense of, talking about the denseness of what you were aware of with other people's stuff, right? And then we're so aware of this stuff, and we don't realize that is an awareness. So then we're trying to actually, and I've been looking at this for myself as well, like how much of that was I also trying to take on literally into and on my body. So then no matter how big and dense I felt like I just couldn't, there was just this weird thing for me of there should be something else. And, so as you were explaining what you just did, that piece just kind of rang in. And so we've got this awareness of the heaviness of and the limitations of this reality in so many different ways. So how much of that have people been putting on their bodies?
A lot. So what you're talking about is like a coping mechanism, and a coping mechanism that fuels dissociation and then garners no communion. And so the coping mechanism was you were sensitive, you're aware, and you're not sure that you're that sensitive or that aware. So you pay attention to something, let's say some judgment about bodies, that you're sitting in your family house eating dinner, but it's everybody else's judgment about their body.
Right.
And you take that judgment as if it's yours, and because you're aware of it. And then you lock it into your body, and then it becomes yours. But then what becomes yours is the density of somebody else's judgment. And it stays with you because you can't change a lie. And then that's usually what puts on weight with people. Not what you're eating, it's what's eating you.
Right.
And what's eating you is the judgments that create fixed points of view that are lies you're buying into.
Right. Totally. And then you can't get rid of it because it's not yours to begin with. But then you beat yourself up like a crazy person. And for me, then I had the whole cycle of self-abuse and all of that insanity and craziness that went along with it, and the, abuse of my body. And it just was such an interesting and not a fun thing to experience. And, I'm grateful to now realize that, hey, it was all just something I chose, and I can choose something different now. But I'm loving this conversation, and I wonder, for people listening, so if anybody is in that space, then what questions can they start asking to have something different show up for themselves?
Well, first is to ask the question, is it possible that I'm aware of something about bodies? I'm aware of a judgment about bodies that may not be mine. Is it possible for me to look around right now and just determine, okay, 5 minutes ago I was feeling really good, and now I'm feeling a little nauseous. Where am I? Oh, I'm at a store, and I'm dealing with a frustrated clerk. Oh, is it possible that I'm taking on the frustrated clerk's energy because they're wearing a mask and I'm not? I'm kidding. And then just by asking that question, it acknowledges to you and your body that maybe something else is going on. And that's the beginning of communion. If you go out to lunch or you're making something for yourself, and I learned this years ago. Gary Douglas used to talk about food as a homeopathic. And I have a joke, and there's a joke in my family growing up in New York where I grew up, where my mother, Mrs. Cooney's meatballs, were about the size of a pound of meat. And because there was no portion control in my family. So, we'd have meatball heroes for snack after lunch and then have dinner 2 hours later. It was crazy. But it was Italian, and that's what she did. And she just wanted to make sure we were all fed. However, she never asked our bodies or told us to ask our bodies anything. And so whatever was put on the plate, we just ate, right?
Right.
And ate quick. And I have to say that I eat less than I've ever eaten, and more throughout the day, smaller portions. But I eat the homeopathic version of what my body requires. And on a day like today, this is a very busy day for me, so to speak, that, there's been calls since 10 a.m. for me this morning. Beautiful calls, radio shows, whatever. I'm so blessed. And it's on these days that I don't actually require a whole lot of food because I'm fed by the communion in what I'm being. But in the past, I wouldn't even have paid attention to that. I would have felt like I was starving and I had to eat because my mother had this viewpoint that we were all starving and they had to eat. And in the Italian culture, the heftiness was a sign of royalty and wealth, not scarcity like in the Irish side of my family, the potato famine and all, was very, very different. So I learned communion with my body through food as a homeopathic. And I would just, with homeopathic, you don't need a whole lot. You need 2 or 3 pellets. Wow. 2 or 3 bites sometimes, and I'm good for an hour. And that used to make people so uncomfortable around me. I remember being in Brazil facilitating, and everybody was eating everything. And at the time, I was still recovering from some surgeries and healings and things like that I really couldn't eat that much. I couldn't digest it. I had to be very particular because I was healing and paying attention to my body, and in such a way that I had to really literally chew things so deliberately to see if my body was actually going to receive it. And I'd never had that experience before. And that's how I learned to go slow, to chew, to taste, and that I didn't need as much as supersize as America is. And I literally am amazed going out to dinner and how I used to finish plates and plates of stuff. And I'm not saying it's bad to finish plates and plates of stuff. I'm saying I and my body and this body that I'm in right now, the communion is more about go until your body says enough. Done.
Right.
And if you don't have that, which most people don't, if you don't have that, I don't know what to call it, that barometer, you could actually be harming yourself in just overriding your navigation system.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so sick and tired of overriding my own navigation system.
Wow. Oh, great time for a first break with Dr. Lisa Cooney today, talking about communion with bodies. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned for more.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
The student asks the teacher, "How do I experience transformation?" The teacher replies, "When the student is ready to receive deeper answers, the student then asks, 'How do I know what deeper questions to ask?' And the teacher replies, "When the student decides to commit to a practice inviting transformation, level 2 questions will be revealed." Hi, I'm Tomas Garza, and as a teacher and host, I'm inviting listeners to enroll in the mastery of transformation by joining me on Decide to Transform, your bridge to level 2 answers. Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Communion with your bodies is our conversation today with my guest, Dr. Lisa Cooney. And I wanted to get a little bit more information from you. So you mentioned before the break, you mentioned homeopathic for your body. So could you explain a little bit more what that is?
Yeah. So basically, it's kind of like I want to say taking things in moderation, but it's more specifically with food. So I literally, when I was sick with a bacterial infection, I literally couldn't eat. And the only thing I could have was like popsicles. And I really had to learn to enjoy the popsicle because I couldn't have that many of them. I wasn't hungry. I was on a lot of medications, but I needed the liquid. And it was the only thing that I could swallow, that I didn't have to use a whole lot of chewing and whatever. And so I really got the experience. A popsicle's not that big.
Right.
I really got the experience of dealing with my own fear of starving to death and realizing that I could actually live with actually very little as long as I was hydrated. And so I started to learn that a little was a lot. And that was not anything I'd ever had in my family. And my family was the bigger, the better, the more. So for instance, my brother and I used to go to our best friends when we were kids, their house. And we loved going over there because they didn't have the craziness that we had, so we thought. But their dinners were very different than our dinners. Everybody sat down as a family together. They got one hot dog, a couple of florets of broccoli and, one bun and something else. And I literally remember looking at the plate and being like, I'm going to die. That is not enough. Can I have seconds? Because I told you, my mom, 1,000-pound meatball.
That's funny.
And so my brother and I would finish in half a second, and then we'd be like, gotta go. And we'd be running back home because we knew Mom would have other food on the stove. But that was actually just normal. One hot dog with a bun, some vegetable, and maybe some beans or something, who knows. And that was very, very filling and a balanced meal back then in the 70s or whatever. And to me, that's the homeopathic, but I never knew that. I only knew, the Italian way, which was the bigger, better, the more. Have it and don't stop. Don't breathe, don't chew, don't move, and then get out of there. And so I didn't have any communion. There was no navigation system. There was no barometer. And then, every day was kind of like Thanksgiving in America, unbutton the zipper and button, lay on the floor and be in food coma. And that's the opposite of being in communion. That's the opposite of using food as a homeopathic. That's using food to kill you. And I did that for so many years. Never chewed, never swallowed. And then until, for me it was the sicknesses and the surgeries that I had to have and chose to have to get well that allowed me to choose to chew, to feel what it felt like to swallow. I could literally feel it going down through my esophagus into my stomach, and I'd never felt that experience before. And that started to change my whole relationship with food. So I literally, instead of watching TV or on my phone, I literally had to put everything away and concentrate on chewing, because if I chewed too much or swallowed too much, I would vomit, and the vomiting would take out the stitches. And stuff was still healing in my ovary and in my gut and all that stuff. And I couldn't risk it. And the doctors told me that. And I'll tell you what, you vomit once after surgery, you're never going to vomit again. And it was the scariest moment. And then I was like, okay, listen, I got to take control of my life here. This is not a death sentence. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I'm well. How can I be more in communion with your body? And I literally heard, sit, breathe, chew, receive, and breathe again.
Wow.
And I have to tell you, it was so uncomfortable. Because I grew up in a very different kind of family. Like, you'd get smacked at the table. So, I never wanted to sit. I never wanted to breathe. I never wanted to receive, and I never wanted to chew. I just wanted to swallow and get away from the hands. And, and doing this, I had to reteach myself how to receive food as a homeopathic and breathe and actually let my body digest and not be in a fight or flight reaction with eating. And to literally, my digestion changed. I actually started to digest things. I really found out what I liked and what I didn't like. I really found out what foods I ate because my family ate them and it kept me close to them. I found out that a lot of the foods that I was eating were the things that this reality said was good for me, and I actually didn't like it. My body didn't like it, and I had an allergic reaction to some of it, and so on and so forth. And I wouldn't have done any of that if I didn't sit, put my phone away, stare at a plate of food, which was very boring, I have to say, until it became unboring. And then I actually felt like I was loving myself and loving my body. And then I felt the communion. And it became like, hey, Lisa, are you hungry? Instead of saying yes, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm happy to sit with you and eat. A lot of people get really uncomfortable when you're not eating the way that they want you to eat. I never knew that.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. Yep.
When I went home for the first time after I released a lot of weight, and I could not eat my mother's food anymore. My cousin, I remember she took the bowl from me because my mom kept asking, why aren't you eating? Why aren't you eating? I could not eat her energy anymore. and it was all over the food. And even though I loved lentils and I loved her lasagna and all that kind of stuff, I couldn't eat it. And I wasn't wrong for that. I was actually just listening to my body. But my cousin still had to hide the plate because, you know, my mom is my mom and she's a force of nature. And you don't want to sometimes you got to just take one for the team. Take one for the mama.
Yeah.
Because if you tell her no, it's kind of like when I told her one day that I was a vegetarian, and she's like, what would happen to you if you eat the meat? It's like, no, nothing would happen. I just decided not to. I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but I was going through a phase at that time. Just to give you a little insight about my mother. So with food, as the homeopathic, like I said, sit, choose what you like, sit, get all the distractions away, breathe, chew, receive, and breathe again. And stop whenever you want, whenever you get the navigation from your body to say, you know what, I had enough. Because what I also learned, and I don't know if this is true for you too, but by the time the second or third bite comes, it's never as good as the first bite. And you probably received everything you needed to receive in the first, second, or third bite. And they can be big bites, maybe 5 bites, whatever. Pass the plate. I don't care. But after a while, I get kind of tired of chewing the same thing, and the funness, you know, goes away. And I'm like, I want to have fun for my body. I want my body to be in communion. So I'll stop eating the dinner or whatever, and I'll make space for something sweet that I want later on. And I just need a homeopathic version of it. I just need a bite or two, or a cookie or two, or something like that. And I'm satisfied because I'm listening to my GPS.
Yes. And that's, you know, for me as well, I have also discovered that I don't require near as much food as I used to eat. And it has never been easier. Like when you actually listen to your body, what shows up is almost short of miraculous, you know, it's like, wow. And so in that, you really and for me, I find when it doesn't really, is when it's not delicious anymore, my body's done. It's like, okay, that's enough. And,
right.
You know, and I've watched, I have a friend who she's got an art form of making it look like she eats when she actually really doesn't. She moves the food around on the plate a lot because she's not a big eater, but she'll be polite at meals and stuff. And I watched her the last time, and she really basically just kind of moved the food around the plate. I thought, oh, that's very interesting. But
creative.
She gets right, and because she got a lot of flack for not eating much, like you were talking about with your mom. And I wonder, like, so when people are maybe getting that kind of flack from, you know, family or friends or whatever for not eating, like, what are some of the things that they could go back with, you know, or not as an argument, but like, is there some recommendations that you would have for people in situations like that?
Well, if it's your family, thank you so much. It was so delicious. I'm just so full right now that I can't eat another bite. Or some version of that. You know, just something to honor yourself and also be respectful of, you know, you don't got to slam your truth down someone's throat.
Right.
You know, pick your battles. And for a while, I just started, you know, what was really cool is I would take a lot of leftovers home and I'd have it for later, even though it was never as good. You know, sometimes it was never as good later. But, you know, I just did that, and I would take it home with me if I went to someone's house, and because that made them feel better. Even if I said no, especially with family, they would still give it to me, part of the Italian way. So I just learned to, you know, and then I would probably, you know, a lot of times I gave it away to somebody that I saw or somebody else ate it, and they were so happy with it. But I didn't have to do that anymore. You know, that was the way I was in communion with myself. And, you know, this is, you know, food, relationship, the clothes you put on your body, the people you hang around, all of that is all about listening to your navigation system inside of you. And if you don't even know what that is, your first step is to, well, here's what I might suggest, is to get quiet and to either journal or type it on the computer. My favorite thing that started me on this journey is close my eyes and let my body talk to me and let it start to tell me what it was happy with, what it was unhappy with, what it wanted me to change, and how it would contribute to me. And once I started doing that, and when you listen to your body and you give yourself the space for that, you know, you then have a choice. Am I going to listen to it, or am I going to avoid it? Well, avoidance, look at your life.
Right.
How has it been for you? Look at your body. And all you have to do is start where you're at. You know, 1 ounce, 1 degree of acknowledgement will change a lot. Once you take those blinders off, you can't put them back on. And why would you want to? So really, communion with bodies to me is about being the best friend you can to yourself, no matter what. And I figured nobody else was going to do it. So if I can't do it for me, how am I going to teach somebody else to do it? So I really wanted to have that experience of not being sick and tired in my body. And I also wanted to not have the experience of being sick anymore and suffering and that heaviness. And I also wanted to have the ease and joy of embodiment. And I wanted to be strong. And I wanted to feel proud of myself and my body, knowing that it wasn't so much about big or small or thin or whatever. It was more about when I look at myself, is what I'm seeing the accurate reflection of me, internally and externally. And that's what I committed to, is that authenticity. Now, that just was the way it worked for me.
Wow. Okay, you guys, the second break. We'll be back very soon. Hang on for more info.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living, a chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Imperfect Brilliance. This is Betsy McLaughlin, and I am having such an amazing conversation today with Dr. Lisa Cooney. And Lisa, could you, before we dive too much deeper, I would like you to tell everybody about the series that we have going on right now called The Body of Change.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. So The Body of Change is a book that I'm writing about my body of change. And I released 80 pounds, and energetic means and allopathic means, and partly with what I'm talking about here about communion with bodies. And I decided to write a book about my journey with my body. And then the project kind of stalled a little bit. So what I did was say, I'm going to do a telecall, and I'm going to invite people and other facilitators to join me on that and have it be all about bodies and what people know about their body of change. And all different people. So I asked Betsy, I asked John Wheeler, Sarah Grandinetti, Desiree Dumont, and Allison Cox. And we just started today. And it's 2 calls a week for 3 weeks. And 5 of the calls are me and another facilitator that I mentioned. And 1 of the calls is with all of us together. And the content and the different voices will be somehow used in the book. I don't know exactly how yet. But more particularly, right now, with what's going on with this pandemic and around the planet, the planet basically said, take a seat, everybody. And in so doing, I don't know any one person that hasn't taken a look at themselves, their thoughts, their feelings, their body, their financial world, their career, business, etc., and made some changes. Some people resisted it very, very dramatically and maybe haven't made some changes. But I wanted to put this telecall together at this particular time and put it out there as a support for our bodies physically, physiologically, and energetically. Because whether you are aware of the changes going on, our earth has changed, our world has changed, and there's no business as usual right now. It's business as unusual, which means we all have a reset, and that's including a reset with our bodies. And it doesn't come all the time. It's here now. Mm-hmm. And you literally can change anything. If there's a project that you want, a book you may want to write, a business you may want to create, a body that you may want to release stuff or get stronger or get healthy or get well, it's got to be staring you in the face right now after these 3 months of slowed down microscopic vision on things. And if it isn't, I'd like to talk to you and find out how. How it is, because that's a little interesting to me. Anyway. Mm-hmm.
So if somebody was interested in finding out more about this series, and it is being translated in quite a few languages.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
how would
Spanish, Russian.
Where did they go?
Spanish, Russian, Portuguese. There's a couple of others. Polish, I believe. Anyway, a couple of languages.
Turkish.
They would go to Dr.
Well.
Turkish, yes, thank you. Dr. Lisa Cooney, COONEY.com/events. You have to scroll down a little bit to see the Body of Change icon, but it's on that event page, and you're more than welcome to join. We just had our first call today, so jump on and get on for Thursday. Allison Cox, we're going to be speaking about the unspoken language of bodies. Today we talked about ease with bodies. When I do come on with you, Betsy, we're going to go more into communion with bodies. Mm-hmm. There's a topic called the vulnerability of the turn-on, and there's another topic that is called about motion and movement with bodies and being that freedom of space with your body. And then who the hell knows what's going to happen when we all get on there. It's going to be a free-for-all for millions of gems for things. But and there's also a donation piece. So partial donation to Action for Futures related to access consciousness, and partial donation to, saving the trees. that is also an initiative developed by Access Consciousness facilitators. So this is for the earth, this is for your body, and it's like physical, physiological, and energetic healing. And you'll get the recordings in your own customer account. If there's any clearings or exercise or home play, that will all be uploaded in your language there. And then you, if you're on the call, will be the, first people to get some of the beta versions of the book before it gets, comes out through Access Consciousness Publishing. And that will have the full story, at least as far as I know, in these 10 seconds, of the choices I made to be way over 200 and, about 15 pounds to, 128 or whatever it is now. And then to develop a body. It doesn't mean you have to release weight to join the call. Like today we did an exercise about visualizing the body that your body knows it would like to look like. And I know when I first did that, I was very surprised at first I chose somebody else's body because that's how I could connect with myself, through other people. And then spontaneously one day when I did the exercise over, my body chose my body. And a body that I really, really loved that I didn't even know that I loved at 20-something years of age. And then it created that. And I'm 50 now. And I'm about the same size I was at whatever age that was, 23, 24, 25. And I had no idea that my body had that capacity until it did. So join us, drlisacooney.com/events. We'd love to have you.
Yes, absolutely. And the first call was kicking, I will say, and I can't wait to listen to it again. And there was just so many pearls in it. And there's all the facilitators are amazing, and I know they're all going to bring a unique flavor and conversation to this pretty much limitless possibility of conversations with and about and for our bodies. And, so with the communion with your bodies, what are some of the things that you are most grateful for with your whole journey about where you are now?
What I'm most grateful for is that I listened to my body. I'm most grateful for that night that I closed my eyes, put my hands on the keyboard, and asked my body to tell me everything that it needed me to know. And then it let me know that I was killing itself, that I was killing myself. And I'm grateful for all the pain that I chose to suffer and don't have to suffer any longer. And I'm grateful that, Betsy, I am just one lucky little dog, because the people that I work with that come in with body stuff and weight stuff, I don't know how, but they release. And it might not be in the first day, but I have people that I've worked with that are releasing and shedding stuff that they hadn't been able to shed in their body and creating more than they've ever created. And it's because, all I know is because I'm listening to their body and I'm reflecting them to listen to their body. And by doing that, it brings ease. And sometimes ease in communion literally dissipates ease dissipates the density of the weight and the weight that's stored in our fat cells. Like, I just created 2 new books and 2 new manuals for 2 classes and facilitated those classes. And some of the other things I'm doing, new website, all this kind of stuff. And my body changed again, and it slimmed down. And I really didn't do anything different other than I listened to my body saying, now's the time to do this and do it. So I created with my body. So what if your body, communion with your body, was really about creating?
Mhm. Yes, and I love that question. And what if, like the co-creation of being together and not having a separateness between your body and you, which is what I did for most of my life. And now realizing that my body is not my enemy. My body actually is my friend. And when you talked just now about the ease, there is, even for me as well, the ease in which things are showing up and the way my body is changing, where it's always been up to before recent events, it's always been a struggle and it's been difficult and it's been hard and, all the things that we hear that it can't possibly be easy. And now I'm like kind of looking around going, is it really this easy? Because it's like effortless and my body is changing. And it's such a joy to be in that space. And I'm sure it is for you as well.
I love what you said there, Betsy. And, everybody should take that snippet and listen to it, because when you're in congruence and alignment with yourself, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just talked about, your body, that's your communion with you.
Yes.
Is the alignment and congruence. And then the weight just falls off. And It's not that you lose it. You've just released it.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's just gone. And it's because you released your authenticity into the universe. And you said, I'm having this no matter what. And your body followed, because it's your ally, not your enemy. Your body is your ally in healing.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. Thank you for that. Yes, it is. Your body is your ally. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, your body is your ally in healing. And what I was going to say for everybody is that don't be, start where you are. If I can do it, if Betsy can do it, you can do it. And it's not about anything this reality told you about diets or things like that. It's about finding what works for you, the lightness and rightness of that authenticity and that genuineness. And for me, it came the weirdest way. I literally I chose to listen to my body. It told me I was killing it. It told me what I needed to stop killing it. And I just did what works. And that changed everything. It wasn't always so pleasant. It wasn't always so easy.
Mm-hmm.
But once I did that, my body was so kind to me that it just decided to change. And then it started talking because I was listening to it. And then I was in communion with it. And then I was like, wait, am I going schizophrenic, or is this really happening? And I was like, this is really happening. And there's a relationship here. And I want to be a good friend to myself. And I want my body to be well.
Yeah.
And I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And I want to flow in the lightness and space of being.
Mhm. Well, and
that is
the
a gift.
Oh, it totally is. And that piece you said earlier about being sick and tired of being sick and tired, I too was at that space at one point in my life. And so that willingness and that demand to change it, and what's it going to take? And for me, it was still quite a journey before getting to the place where I actually chose to be congruent with what my body's asking for and not trying to override her all the time. But it is that space of, yes, I really actually do desire to be happy, to be joyful, to feel healthy and strong, and not, the other things that I was feeling and choosing. And it really is. So, and it's never no matter how old you are, how young you are, wherever you are right now, you can change it. And that's one thing I know for sure.
You can change it. All it takes is your choice to change it. And when you are ready, you will do it.
Yes.
I don't know how, I just know it will be, because that's what it was for me. Mm-hmm. One of the things that, I know we're getting close to the end here, but one of the things my body told me that night was that I needed to stop drinking alcohol. And I was like, hell no, that's never going to happen. Well, here I am 2.5 years later, and I removed something from my life because my body told me to. And my body told me to, and I learned that how I actually got sick was, I didn't know how I got this undiagnosed bacterial infection that took out a lot of my insides. Well, I only lost one organ, but there was a couple of them touch and go for a while. But that alcohol, because I was allergic to it, which I didn't know, actually created a petri dish of sickness inside of me that was the culprit to years of conflicts, years of drama and trauma, financial issues, possibilities being thwarted. I could never find the bottom until I listened to my body. That was my communion moment.
Wow. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful for this conversation. You guys, thanks for listening in. Have a wonderful week. What communion with your body can you choose?
Thanks, Betsy.
Take care, Lisa.